Liangyu received his sister, Liang Pan, at the airport. It had been 16 years since he last saw her. The year their parents died in a car accident, she didn't even come home, just called with an icy tone. With her personality, if she said she would cut ties, she really meant it. Even after their parents' deaths, she wouldn't budge. Logically, Liangyu should have hated Liang Pan for her ruthlessness, but seeing that long-lost familiar figure at the airport made his eyes involuntarily redden. Sis. Liangyu reached out, instinctively wanting to hug her like they did when they were kids, but Liang Pan stepped back, and he snapped back to reality. They had both grown up, they were no longer children, and many things could never return. Liangyu rubbed his face and smiled. "You're back, sis." Liang Pan nodded and pulled a little boy from behind her. "Lele, call your uncle." The boy, around 6 or 7 years old, had short, chestnut hair and fair, delicate skin, with handsome features and a pair of deep blue eyes that resembled a tranquil lake. Though he was mixed Chinese and French, Liangyu felt he resembled more of a child from the old Liang family, just with different hair and eye colors. Liang Pan patted the boy's head and said to Liangyu, "Lele takes my surname. He's also Liangyu, but with a character for joy. I hope he'll be happy all his life and won't have to suffer like I did." Liangyu swallowed hard, looking into his sister's eyes, and finally said, "Nice name." He squatted down, pulling a stuffed toy from his pocket and showing it to the boy. "Hey, Lele, this is a toy your uncle made for you. Do you like it?" Lele honestly shook his head. Liang Pan smiled gently. Lele has taken IQ and psychological tests. He's much more mature than other kids. Don't treat him like a typical child. He might prefer solving Sudoku over toys. Watching Lele's serious little face, Liangyu took back the toy, sincerely saying, "So smart. No wonder he's my sister's son. He'll definitely be a top student, getting into any good university he wants." He was excitedly envisioning a bright future, but Liang Pan only sighed lightly. "Maybe, but unfortunately, I won't be around to see that day." The air seemed to freeze in an instant. Liangyu sensed something was wrong and slowly stood up. "Sis, what do you mean?" Liang Pan gazed into Liangyu's eyes, her expression completely candid. "Liangyu, I have cancer." She smiled, but tears shimmered in her eyes. "I came back this time to entrust Lele to you." Liang Pan and Liangyu, the children of the old Liang family, each bore names that carried their parents' different hopes. Liang Pan was hoped to bring forth another son, even risking her job during the strictest family planning policies to give birth. Liangyu, the cherished son, was born as desired, and their lives were expected to flourish, thriving under the protection of their ancestors, ensuring the continuation of the family line. Unfortunately, reality didn't align with their wishes. Liangyu's arrival didn't bring prosperity. Instead, it led to their parents losing their jobs. One had to make a living driving a motorcycle in all weather, while the other sold goods at night markets to make ends meet. What was once a well-off dual-income family soon faced financial struggles, and there were times they could barely afford food. All this pain was a price paid just to have a son, a beloved treasure. Yet, despite everything, their parents had no regrets. To them, exchanging everything for Liangyu was worth it. Meanwhile, Liang Pan was the shadow that was always overlooked in the family. The favoritism was blatant. From everyday matters to major life decisions, everything revolved around Liangyu. Liang Pan's existence was merely to support her brother, to assist him, to live for him. Every morning, in their 2 bowls of noodles, the one with an egg was always for her brother because he needed to grow and wouldn't want to be bullied for being short. When new clothes were bought, Liang Pan's were always the cheapest knockoffs, while her brother got well-known children's brands, as he had delicate skin and could only wear branded items to avoid allergies. When playing games, Liang Pan could never take the toys her brother liked. If she did and he cried, she would certainly be punished. Liang Pan had to yield to her brother, unconditionally. Such little instances were countless in their lives. She had long gotten used to her parents' differential treatment. After all, Liangyu was her blood, and he was genuinely kind to her. Yes, compared to their parents' preference for sons, Liangyu was the one who treated Liang Pan the best. As he grew older, he would actively give his sister his egg, sneak better clothes and toys to her, and save up a little money to buy her a birthday cake, gently comforting her that their parents hadn't forgotten her birthday, just that they were too busy. It was because of Liangyu that Liang Pan felt some warmth from her family during those years, making her feel less wronged and slightly balanced in her heart. However, the bond between siblings was ultimately destroyed by their parents. Liang Pan was smart and excelled in her studies, wanting to study abroad, but her parents did not support her. In their words, "What's the point for a girl to study so much?" She would eventually marry anyway, and it was better to start working early to ease the family's burden, especially since they would need money to buy a house for her brother and support his future. Their parents complained about Liang Pan's rebellion, feeling she had grown wings and dared to oppose the family. They refused to fund her education anymore. In defiance, Liang Pan worked various jobs and sought scholarships, eventually saving a decent amount, her study abroad fund. Unfortunately, her parents eventually discovered this money. Their parents secretly took Liang Pan's ID card and bank card, and after a few attempts, successfully guessed her password, transferring the money she had saved. At that time, Liangyu was only in middle school. Though he wasn't as academically outstanding as his sister, he was clever and had a talent for art. He dreamt of getting into the prestigious Central Academy of Fine Arts, following in his sister's footsteps, hoping to become just as exceptional and brilliant as her. But his life was forever changed that year. Their parents took the money that Liang Pan had painstakingly saved for her study abroad and used it to make a down payment on an apartment for Liangyu. At that time, housing prices weren't as exorbitant as they are now, so the money Liang Pan saved over the years was just enough to secure a marriage fund for her brother. Their parents were quite pleased with themselves, thinking their decision was clever. Not only did they stop Liang Pan from studying abroad and kept her tethered to them, but they also solved Liangyu's housing issue, ensuring his future was secure. Everything seemed perfect, except they didn't realize they had just destroyed both of their children. The Liang family fell apart, never to be whole again. Liang Pan completely exploded. Years of pent-up grievances poured out, and with a heart full of resentment, she severed ties with her family and left, not returning for 16 years. At that time, there was a program at her school offering volunteer work in Africa. Without hesitation, she signed up and flew to one of the poorest regions in Africa, where she spent 3 years teaching. After receiving a government stipend, she went on to further her studies in Europe, achieving her dream through an indirect path. But Liangyu wasn't so lucky. The family's fallout, especially his sister cutting ties, dealt a heavy blow to him. He became deeply troubled, his personality changed, and his grades plummeted. From then on, he gave up entirely. After barely graduating, he ended up in a mediocre art college, wasting his days with a group of bad influences, living like a walking corpse. That one decision by their parents not only cost them a brilliant daughter, but also a son who had once been full of potential. They deeply regretted their actions, but it was too late. Liang Pan's heart had been irreparably broken, and she would never forgive them, nor would she ever return. The once happy family was shattered. The parents, longing for their daughter, wept constantly. Even after a car accident that left them lying in a hospital, barely alive, they clung to Liangyu's hand and kept asking, "Has Liang Pan come back? Is she back yet? She's already on the plane, she'll be here soon." With this lie, Liangyu sent his parents off to their deaths, and with them, he bid farewell to the light in his life. From that day on, he drowned himself in the nightlife, avoided real work, and lived off the rent from the apartment their parents had bought him. He had become a complete wreck, inside and out. The only thing that remained unchanged was the family photo still placed beside his bed. In the picture, the four of them were smiling under the bright summer sun, cicadas singing in the background. They stood at the entrance of the park, his sister holding his hand. He was grinning, carefree, thinking that such beautiful days would last forever. Liang Pan had been in the hospital for 7 months, and during those 7 months, Liang Yu stayed by her side the entire time. He spent all the savings their parents had left behind, even selling the apartment that had been bought for him. "It was yours to begin with. I was just giving it back. I never lived there, only rented it out. I've always stayed in the old alley house, though it's a bit shabby and run down. But it's the only place that still feels like home." In the hospital room, Liang Yu sat by her bedside, peeling an apple as he spoke softly. "The grapevine we planted as kids is still there. After you left, I took care of it every day because Mom and Dad said that once the grapes ripened, you'd come back. But year after year, you never returned." Liang Pan's eyes blurred with tears. She moved her fingers slightly and finally tugged at the corner of Liang Yu's shirt. Her hoarse voice broke the silence in the hospital room. "Actually, the year Mom and Dad had their car accident, I came back." Fate has a cruel way of toying with people. The reason Liang Pan sounded so cold over the phone that year was because she thought her parents were lying to her again. Ever since she had cut ties with the family, her parents had tried every way possible to contact her, often using illness as an excuse. Over the years, they'd pretended to have all sorts of ailments, all in an attempt to trick her into coming home. After so many false alarms, Liang Pan naturally stopped believing in that so-called car accident phone call. But after hanging up, an uneasy feeling nagged at her. Sleepless for several nights, she eventually returned to China, only to be greeted by her parents' funeral portraits. I went to the memorial hall, just standing far away. After everyone had left, I knelt before their portraits. I had hated them for so many years, but when they were really gone, I realized I didn't even have a place left to channel my anger. All the emotions were stuck inside me with nowhere to go. After that, I had to rely on sleeping pills to fall asleep, day after day, and my health started to decline. At the lowest point of Liang Pan's life, her marriage also fell apart. The partner she thought she'd grow old with betrayed her, having an affair while she was emotionally drained. After the divorce, he took half of her company's shares. With the company's finances cut off, even though Liang Pan fought desperately to secure funding, she couldn't save it. After struggling to keep it afloat for a few more years, the company she had built from the ground up finally collapsed, and she declared bankruptcy. Left with nothing but her illness and her son, who bore her surname, she returned to China. Fortunately, Lele, her son, was intelligent and mature beyond his years. No matter what they went through, he never cried or complained, always sticking by her side, his maturity heartbreaking. All good things must come to an end. Life is fleeting, and farewells are inevitable. Before she passed away, Liang Pan told Liang Yu that she didn't want to be buried in the cold, hard ground. She asked for her body to be cremated and her ashes scattered into the sea so that, in her next life, she could become a free bird, soaring through the vast sky. This was Liang Pan's final wish, and Liang Yu was determined to fulfill it. The sea breeze that day was gentle. Standing at the bow of the boat, Liang Yu watched as her ashes slowly scattered from his fingertips, tears streaming down his face. Lele sat quietly at his feet, fiddling with a puzzle in his hands. He never once looked up, nor shed a single tear. His mother had forbidden him from crying, and he had promised her. He was now a little man, and he had to keep his word. Even though the puzzle grew more and more tangled in his hands, he didn't make a sound, focusing only on steadying his breath. After the farewell was over, Liang Yu turned his gaze toward Lele, who was now his closest living relative. In that moment, a sorrowful thought surfaced in his mind, depending on each other for survival. Lele, from now on, you'll live with your uncle. As long as I'm alive, I won't let you go hungry or cold. Do you hear me? Liang Yu crouched down and gently patted the boy's head. Lele's blue eyes looked up at him, quiet and calm, like a deep, lonely lake. Suddenly, Liang Yu couldn't hold back anymore. He pulled the child into his arms and wept uncontrollably in the sea breeze. After handling his sister's funeral, the first thing Liang Yu did was head to a bar with Lele to collect debts. That's right, an unemployed man with a child in tow. How could they survive without money? Now that the rental house had been sold, Liang Yu had no other source of income. He needed to figure out a way to get money quickly so they could survive. The bar was chaotic, but Liang Yu held tightly onto Leilei's hand, making a beeline for his group of drinking buddies. He was direct and to the point, disregarding any pretense, immediately demanding the money they owed him. He had once lived lavishly, mingling in nightclubs, generous to a fault, and always helping others. Most of these people had borrowed money from him at some point, and now he intended to get it all back. He wouldn't even let go of the smallest debts, like the cost of a few packs of cigarettes. "Are you serious, you?" one of the guys asked, laughing, thinking it was a joke. The crowd, seeing the child next to him, started teasing. "What? Taking care of a secret love child now? Whose foreign beauty did you have this kid with? He even kind of looks like you." "Shut up." Liang Yu brushed off someone trying to touch Leilei and, in a hoarse voice, shouted, "This is my nephew. From now on, I'm turning over a new leaf and looking for a proper job to earn money. My nephew needs to eat, drink, and go to school." He looked around at the group. "No more nonsense. Pay me back what you owe, every last cent. And if you've got anything extra, lend me some. I'll repay you double once I'm through this rough patch." His words echoed through the bar. Despite the teasing, a few of his closer friends, laughing, sent him some money. One of them, especially, pulled Liang Yu aside to talk outside the bar. This guy, chubby and honest-looking, was named Lon, so Liang Yu always called him Lon Fatty. It was late, the night fog swirling as they talked. Lon Fatty handed Liang Yu a cigarette and sincerely said, Didn't you study art before? That design sketch you helped me with last time was really good. Why not come work at our company? I can recommend you. What do you think?" Lon Fatty worked at a well-known ad agency, spending his nights unwinding at bars after work. Liang Yu had once saved him during a brawl, and they quickly became close friends due to their shared love of drawing and anime. Now, seeing Liang Yu in such a tough spot, Lon Fatty wanted to help. Liang Yu felt warmth spread through his heart. He punched Lon Fatty's shoulder lightly. "Thanks, brother." Lon Fatty smiled. "Come on, it's nothing. You saved me once, and you've got the talent. I've wanted you in our company for a while now. Just wait for my good news." They chatted for a while longer before Lon Fatty headed back inside. Liang Yu lit the cigarette, then turned to see Leilei engrossed in his smartwatch, speaking a stream of French. The watch, brought from abroad, had all sorts of high-tech features, lighting up, playing songs, and even engaging Leilei in French conversation. He wore it constantly, even to bed, talking to it more than to Liang Yu. Leilei was somewhat withdrawn. Liang Yu had consulted a doctor, who said the child was likely showing signs of psychological trauma. After all, he'd just lost his mother and was now in a strange new environment. Everything would take time to heal. Liang Yu exhaled smoke, stepped on the cigarette, and reached out to ruffle Leilei's hair. "Let's go, Leilei. Time to head home." Those blue eyes looked up at him, a faint hint of resistance in them. Liang Yu's heart ached, but he forced a gentler smile. "Uncle's going to get a job. You like puzzles, don't you? Once I get my paycheck, I'll buy you a big box of them, and we can put them together, okay?" Leilei tightened his lips, standing in the wind without a word. Liang Yu, trying to get a smile out of him, teasingly reached for his chin. "Come on, don't be so serious. How about calling me uncle? Let's hear it." But Leilei pulled back, the look of disgust in his eyes deepening. Since returning to China, he hadn't once called Liang Yu uncle. The kid was smart, emotionally reserved, like a little adult. Though he stayed quiet, he understood everything. Seeing where Liang Yu had taken him tonight, witnessing his uncle's rowdy group of friends, Leilei probably thought even less of this man, who had spent years adrift in life, wasting time. Liang Yu laughed at himself, suddenly struck by a surge of determination in the night air. Fine. Don't look at me like that. I know what you're thinking. I've been a loser for many years, almost 30, and still a failure. I don't deserve to be called uncle by someone as bright as you, a genius. But don't worry. I'm not going to keep being like this. I promised your mom I'd raise you well, and I will. I'll make sure you never go hungry or cold. I'll send you to school, all the way to college. Just watch. I'll make sure you grow up to be someone with a future. Liang Yu quickly went for an interview at the advertising company, introduced by Lan Pengzi. The result was neither good nor bad. Since Liang had never had a formal job and his education level was low, although he had some talent, the department head wasn't too confident in him. They told him they'd give him a trial period of 3 to 6 months, asking him to work from home and create design drafts for the company to evaluate. In simple terms, Liang Yu would be working for free for nearly half a year. Lan Pengzi was indignant, but Liang Yu had a positive attitude. He was confident in his abilities, believing that even though he had wasted years, his foundation was still solid. This half year would be a perfect time to practice and learn. He trusted that, in time, he would be officially hired. But where would his living expenses come from in the meantime? Without hesitation, Liang Yu embarked on the workaholic path. During the day, he worked at a supermarket moving goods, delivering packages and food. At night, he stayed up late working on designs and occasionally took on side jobs. He wished he could split himself into 10 people to get everything done. On the other hand, Lele was about to start elementary school. Due to his unique situation, many formalities were hard to handle, so he could only attend a private foreign language school. The school's conditions were excellent, but the cost was extremely high. Liang Yu gritted his teeth and thought, so what? Can't my nephew attend a fancy school? Liang Yu took a whole morning off to accompany Lele for his school interview. The entrance requirements were very strict, and not just any student could get in. Liang was anxious, but to his surprise, Lele exceeded all expectations. When facing the questions from the head teacher and several teachers, Lele answered fluently, shedding his usual quiet and withdrawn demeanor. He breezed through the test papers with speed and accuracy, showing remarkable talent in every subject. Even the school principal came to see him. Liang Yu felt like he was dreaming. As soon as they left the school, he couldn't hold back any longer. He lifted Lele high above his head, his voice trembling with excitement. Good job, nephew. You've done the Liang family proud. Do you know how much money you saved your uncle today? Thanks to Lele's outstanding performance, not only was he admitted, but the principal also decided to waive half of the tuition fees. That was no small amount. Liang Yu would have to deliver so many packages and design so many graphics to earn that much money. This was a perfect example of turning knowledge into wealth. Lele, being lifted into the air, furrowed his brows and instinctively tried to wriggle free. But then his gaze fell on the dirt mark on Liang Yu's shoulder, dust from working at the supermarket. He had rushed over without even changing his clothes, barely managing to take half a day off. In the afternoon, he still had deliveries to make. Lele pursed his lips, stopped struggling, and as Liang Yu brought him into a hug, he wrapped his arms around his uncle's neck. His bright blue eyes blinked, holding a trace of a barely noticeable smile. Life seemed to be getting back on track. Liang Yu took care of Lele while working hard to earn money. Though he often worked himself to the point where his back ached, his heart was full, much more than during those aimless nights in bars. It turns out that truly living, having drive, having goals, and having hope for a better future feels sweet and wonderful. Late one night, after finishing his delivery run, Liang Yu sat down by the door, too exhausted to move. From inside came a rustling sound. A small head peeked out, seeing Liang Yu slumped there under the dim light, every inch of him written with fatigue. A cup of warm water was quietly handed to him. He looked up and met a pair of bright blue eyes. Still not asleep? Lele didn't say a word. Liang Yu couldn't help but tease him. What? Feeling sorry for your uncle? He slapped his thigh and joked. Come on, give me a shoulder rub, a leg massage. Serve your uncle well. Liang's mischievous side emerged again. Lele rolled his eyes, set the cup down on the table, and turned to leave. Hey, you little rascal. Under the soft yellow light, Liang Yu called after Lele. Staring at the small figure walking away, he spoke slowly, word by word. Don't worry, your uncle's strong as iron. No matter how hard or tiring it gets, I'll raise you well. You'll have everything you need, food, drinks, fun. You won't lack anything. I'll earn it for you. Whatever others have, you'll have too. Understand? Although Liang Yu made a bold promise, he wasn't sure he could afford everything Lei liked. Lei's birthday was approaching, and it would be the first one Liang Yu would celebrate with him. He wanted to give Lei the best gift possible, determined not to let the child feel neglected. There was a 3D puzzle from abroad that Lei had been eyeing for a while. No matter the cost, Liang Yu was determined to get it for him this time. However, after paying for school fees and covering daily expenses, Liang Yu found himself short on cash. As he considered asking his boss for an advance, a call from Lan Pengzi came through. You have that rare blood type, right? Sometimes, life has a funny way of working out. Just when Liang Yu needed money, an opportunity arose. One of Lan Pengzi's colleagues had a wife in the hospital who urgently needed blood from Liang Yu's rare type. Without hesitation, Liang Yu went to the hospital, initially intending to donate the blood for free. However, the recipient's family insisted on giving him some money to nourish his body. That money was exactly what Liang Yu needed to buy Lei's birthday gift. Elated, though slightly dizzy after donating, Liang Yu descended from the hospital ward, where he had left Lei waiting in the lobby with a nurse. To his horror, as he approached, he saw a large man grabbing Lei by the collar, looking ready to strike. Liang Yu's eyes widened in fury. Blood rushed to his head. Hey, let go of my nephew. Though Liang Yu had been in plenty of fights before, he was weakened from the blood donation. His punches landed like soft pillows. The large man easily pushed him away, growling. Do you even know what your nephew did? The kid's got a nasty mouth. Lei, unfazed, retorted. He's a scammer. He was trying to trick an old man into buying medicine from another hospital, so I exposed him. Shut your little mouth, brat, the man bellowed, raising his hand to slap Lei. But before he could land the blow, Liang Yu launched himself at the man, tackling him to the ground. The two of them tussled until the hospital security rushed over. In the chaos, Lei calmly called the police from his wristwatch. Then, without hesitation, he grabbed a pen holder from the reception desk and hurled it at the man's head, stunning him long enough for the security guards to restrain him. Lei helped the dazed Liang Yu to his feet, his voice steady. It's okay. There are cameras. The blame is on him. Let's explain everything to the police. Don't worry. Liang Yu stared at him in disbelief, a mix of awe and confusion on his face. Wait, who's scared? You or me? Why do I feel like you're the adult and I'm the kid here? When Lan Pengzi arrived at the police station, the dust had mostly settled. Though Liang Yu wasn't at fault, public fighting wasn't tolerated, so he had to spend the night at the station for education. Liang Yu tried to send Lei to stay at Lan Pengzi's house for the night, but Lei refused, clinging to Liang Yu's clothes. Liang Yu sighed, exasperated. Fine. It's your birthday after all. He pulled Lan Pengzi aside and whispered, Hey brother, I need one more favor. It was shaping up to be a birthday Lei would never forget. Lan Pengzi ran all over town before finally finding the 3D puzzle and even brought a big birthday cake along with it. Scratching his head, Liang Yu sheepishly said, I planned to celebrate at home, but I guess being stuck here counts as a unique experience, right? Lan Pengzi chimed in at just the right moment. Lei, your uncle is amazing. Did you know he sold his blood just to buy you this fancy gift? Shut up. It was voluntary. And they just gave me some compensation for nutrition. Don't make it sound so dramatic. Liang Yu quickly lit the candles on the cake, placing it in front of Lei with a grin. Make a wish, birthday boy. You're 1 year older now, one step closer to college entrance exams. Exciting, huh? He teased, but through the flickering candlelight, Lei's blue eyes remained fixed on him. In the quiet of the night, with the wind howling outside, the small child suddenly stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Liang Yu's head. Thank you, uncle, he whispered. His words were soft but struck Liang Yu like a heavy weight, rendering him speechless. The small hands held him tight as Leilei's gentle voice continued. My birthday wish is for you to live to 100 years old, so you can always be with me, never leaving my side, watching me grow up. No matter how mature his mind might be, Leilei was still just a child, thinking that 100 years meant forever, believing that any bond could remain unbroken. But forever is never certain, and departures often come without warning. Liang Yu's vision blurred. In that moment, he was reminded of a time long ago, under the grapevines, when he had leaned against his sister and made similar promises. But she hadn't stayed forever. Now he could only see her in dreams. Sniffling, Liang Yu hugged the small child tightly, a smile tugging at his lips as he whispered, All right, I'll live to 100, and I'll always be with you. I won't ever leave. Not for a single day. Liang Yu had been burning the midnight oil for 5 months on his design sketches and finally saw a glimmer of hope in his career when he received the official job offer from the advertising company. He was overjoyed, eagerly awaiting his first day at work. He planned to take Leilei to the park the next day to celebrate the good news. However, just as he was about to head home from school with Leilei, a phone call from Blue Fatty doused his excitement like cold water. Brother Yu, the kitchen and bathroom brand design you submitted is a hit with the client, and they're about to sign the contract in the meeting. But what? Liang Yu felt a chill run down his spine. Our boss changed the designer's name to his own. He stole your design work and told me not to tell you. How can I live with this? Liang Yu rushed to the meeting room, his heart pounding. As he entered, he saw the team getting up to leave. The PowerPoint presentation still lit up with his designs, the result of countless sleepless nights. His eyes turned red with anger. This is my work. I am the designer. Why are you taking credit for my creation? The design, titled Companionship, was for a prestigious kitchenware company launching a new line of high-end products. The department head had initially presented several designs to the client, but none were satisfactory. After receiving the assignment, Liang Yu was inspired by the sight of Leilei sleeping peacefully and decided to flip his previous ideas, embracing an unconventional theme: the family cook. Why should cooking always fall on women? Fathers could also be caregivers, nurturing their children and sharing experiences. Liang Yu had transformed from a clueless uncle who could only make instant noodles to a competent family cook, eager to support Leilei in his growth. This design held deep personal significance for him. When he submitted it, the department head was impressed and promised Liang Yu that he would personally explain the concept to the client if it were accepted. But now, that two-faced leader had betrayed him. Fury consumed Liang Yu. You scoundrel! How could you do this? The advertising company descended into chaos. Security rushed in to drag Liang Yu out. The leader, furious, attempted to explain to everyone, this guy is just a lunatic. He was rejected at the interview and is causing trouble. This isn't even his design. Who can prove it? I can prove it. A child's voice rang out, startling everyone. Leilei, carrying his backpack, dashed to the podium and pointed at the PowerPoint screen. This design is about me and my uncle. Look, this kid has golden brown curly hair and blue eyes just like mine. This work is my uncle's. His pale face flushed with excitement, and tears glistened in his bright blue eyes. His clear voice echoed through the room. My uncle works hard every night on these designs and drives around delivering goods during the day. He sacrifices so much to support me and pay for my education. You can't steal his hard work. You can't bully him. Leilei's voice resonated with determination as he reiterated, You can't bully my uncle. His innocent words reverberated in the meeting room, and an uncomfortable silence enveloped everyone. Even the security guards exchanged glances, reluctantly releasing Liang Yu from their grasp. Liang Yu dropped to his knees, looking up at the small figure on the podium. Overwhelmed by emotion, he covered his face with his hands and wept openly, filled with gratitude and pride for the brave child who stood up for him. The company quickly issued a decision, and the little leader was fired. Liang Yu not only successfully joined the company, but also landed several major projects. If he completed them well, a promotion and raise were just around the corner. As another summer arrived, Liang Yu finished his last large project and took a 2-day vacation. After a refreshing shower and shaving, he dressed neatly and put Lele in a new outfit he had bought for him. They headed to the park together, and Lele still wore that watch, though he rarely spoke to it anymore. The watch held no magical powers. It simply contained recordings of his mother's voice. Lele wore it every night while he slept, wanting to feel like she was still there with him. But now, he preferred to converse with his uncle in fluent Chinese. The language was wonderful. It expressed every subtle emotion, from laughter to anger. Lele had also learned many ancient poems, with his favorite line being, "With the strong wind and waves, I shall sail the seas." He didn't know how far the vast sea was, but he imagined it was sunny and the waves were clear, where he could see his mother transformed into a little bird, flying freely in the sky. In the end, Liang Yu held Lele's hand and took a photo at the park entrance. "Wait for me. I'll edit the photo when we get home, adding your grandma, grandpa, and your mom. We'll make it a family of 5. The picture of their family of 4 that used to sit on his bedside would now be expanded to 5. Liang Yu excitedly envisioned a future where Lele would find a beautiful wife, making them a family of 6. Lele stood in the sunlight, a hint of a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Uncle, I'm not even 10 yet. Why not find me a beautiful aunt first?" "Well," Liang Yu scratched his chin, suddenly pointing at the photographer. "Lele, look at the camera." With a snap, the moment was captured. A big hand holding a small one, both making funny faces, pure joy radiating from them. As the gentle breeze swept by, the image of the little Liang Yu from years ago seemed to overlap with the present-day little Lele. The summer cicadas chirped, smiles were carefree, and innocence reigned. Holding on to these beautiful moments, they knew it would last a lifetime.